Canto 10, Chapter 51, The Deliverance of Muchukunda, text number 50. Puraratirhema parishkritais charan Matam Gajayar va naradeva sangyataha Zaeva kalena dharatyayena te Kalevarovit krimi bhasma sangyataha Pararatirhema parishkritais charan Matam Gajayar va naradeva sangyataha Saeva kalena dharatyayena te Kalevarovit krimi bhasma sangyataha Pararatirhema parishkritais charan Matam Gajayar va naradeva sangyataha Saeva kalena dharatyayena te Hema parishkritais charan Matam naradeva sangyataha Saeva kalena dharatyayena te Kalevarovit krimi bhasmatam sangyataha Saeva kalena dharatyayena te Pura previously Ratai in chariots Hema with gold Parishkritai furnished Charan riding Matam fierce Gajai on elephants Va or Naradeva king Sangyataha named Saha that Eva same kalena, by time, duratyayena, unavoidable, te, your, kalevaraha, body, vit, as feces, krimi, worms, bhasma, ashes, sangitaha, named. Translation, that the body that at first rides high on fierce elephants or chariots adorned with gold and is known by the name king is later by your invincible power of time called feces, worms, or ashes. And BBT purport, in the United States and other materially developed countries, dead bodies are cosmetically disposed of in a tidy, ceremonial way. But in many parts of the world, sickly and injured people die in lonely or neglected places where dogs and jackals consume their bodies and transform them into stool. And if one is so blessed that as to be buried in a coffin, one's body may very well be consumed by worms and other minuscule creatures. Also, many earthly cadavers are burned and thus transformed into ashes. In any case, death is certain, and the ultimate fate of the body is never sublime. That is the real purport of Muchakunda's statement here, that the body, though now called king, prince, beauty queen, upper middle class, and so on, will eventually be called stool, worms, and ashes. Srila Sridhar Swami quotes the following Vedic statement: Yone sahasrani bahuni gatva dukkena labdvapi cha manasatvam sukhavaham ye na bhajanti vishnum te vai manushyatmani shatru bhuta. Translation: after passing through many thousands of species and undergoing great struggle, the conditioned living entities finally obtain the human form. Thus, those human beings who still do not worship Lord Vishnu, who can bring them real happiness, have certainly become enemies of both themselves and humanity. Pretty strong, huh? So I have some commentaries here, starting with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Short. This verse describes the body devoured by time. That person who wandered about on a chariot or elephant, famous as a king, is devoured by unavoidable death and then takes the disgusting form of stool, worms, and ashes. Jiva Goswami writes, he just copies Sanatana Goswami, in dying, the body will take a ghastly form. This is described with disgust. The body, which was moving on a chariot, becomes ashes, etc., by the force of your time. Using the masculine for kalevaram is poetic license. Time cannot be stopped by any means, such as sacrifice or yoga, duratyayena, because it is your anksha. That's it for the commentaries. Muchakunda is a celebrated person. He doesn't get as much glorification and focus of attention as perhaps he deserves within the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. But he has a role, much like other devotees of Krishna have a role, where Krishna wishes to honor his devotee, and it's like in Queen Kunti's prayers, when she's describing the reasons for Krishna's appearance, and one of the reasons that she gives, some people say he comes just to give honor and glory to King Yadu, because he appeared in Yadu's dynasty. And certainly not so likely you would hear about Yadu other than Yadunandana or Yaduvira, or the fact that Krishna appeared in his dynasty. So Krishna sent glory to King Yadu in a particular way, appearing in his dynasty. Similarly, what's the likelihood we would hear about Muchukunda? I mean, how many great souls are there that we don't really hear about? Lots of great souls we don't really hear about. But we hear about Muchukunda because Krishna sent some glory to Muchukunda. The whole of step back from the pastime. And how do the pastimes unfold? The pastime unfolds, any pastime unfolds by Krishna's desire. So all kinds of his potencies do so many things, just because Krishna desires. And one of the prominent desires of Krishna is to honor his devotee. So in what way was Muchukunda a devotee? It comes at the end of his prayers here. He got the mercy of a Vaishnava, and that Vaishnava, Gargamuni, read his horoscope, and Gargamuni said, "You're going to see the personality of Godhead face to face." And so Gargamuni's association plus that prophecy resulted in Muchukunda having a strong desire to see the personality of Godhead. He became his devotee, and a strong desire to see the personality of God. And so he was carrying that in his heart. And it didn't happen. He did so many other things, but he didn't leave that to the side. He was always carrying that strong desire. You can say, we want to be Krishna's devotee. We're convinced we should be Krishna's devotee. It's who we are, and it's what we should be doing, and so we're doing. And he had this additional, and he wants to see the personality of Godhead face to face. And it was confirmed. And he trusted Gargamuni as truthful. So when will that day come? And we don't have such a prophecy. An astrologer tells us one day. But we have our acharyas saying one day. And how strongly are any one of us focused on when will that day come? Kabe Habe Bolo Se Din Amar. One of the themes for one of the Festival of the Holy Name events was taking the word yes and breaking it down. Yearning, maybe you remember, we started with singing Kabe Habe Bolo Se Din Amar. It starts with yearning, and as that yearning continues and matures, it becomes enthusiasm, and as that continues and matures, it becomes spontaneous. It's kind of not like mechanical, but that's the sequence. Yearning, enthusiasm, and spontaneous. So when spontaneous comes, the flow of attraction, strong attraction for Krishna it's not impeded by anything. And it's not started by anything. Ahitokiya pratyata. Yayatma supersedes. That's where rasa enters the heart. So what's our position? It's maybe, hankering for a genuine taste. You could say ruchi. Taste. Rasa is what you taste. A taste for what's beyond the temporary. A taste. And from eagerness to enthusiasm for that. So once that taste is experienced, it's anything else doesn't compare. And one becomes eager for more. It's not like, I don't know, a nice food that you like. Somebody cooks something very nicely, you taste, and you say, oh, I want more. But this is something that there's no satiation. So Muchukunda, back to Muchukunda, he had that hankering. And when Krishna introduced himself to Muchukunda, who are you? You're this effulgent being. And Krishna identified, I'm the one that you've been hankering for. This is my name, my credential, here's my passport. Here's who I am. And you're my devotee, and you've been hankering for me, so I've come. Then comes what's natural for a devotee, humility. That's his prayers are expressions of humility. One after the next, And so in the state of contact with the personality of Godhead, humility doesn't stop. It becomes magnified, amplified, stronger. Very attractive. Very attractive. For spiritual personalities, it's very attractive. The kind of humility that we could name our great acharyas, that they exhibited, Rupa Goswami and Raghunatha, it'd start with the 6 Goswamis, or those that had association of the 6 Goswamis, or any great exalted devotee. It's just incredible. And naturally very attractive. Because normally when in material world, when somebody's accomplished, something else happens besides humility. It's pride. And Muchukunda is speaking about himself as if he was such a person. Traveled here, conquered there. He was a powerful, not only lived a long time, but he was very powerful, so powerful that the demigods wanted his help. And so he agreed, and he helped, and he was able to hold back and stop the onslaught of the demons, where the demigods, who are really powerful in battle, and in other ways, they couldn't. They needed his help. So he's a great person on the material standard. But Nara Deva, king. Amongst the Naras, he's a Deva, or king. Superlative amongst the kings, amongst the Naras, human beings. And his acknowledgement here, in addition to humility, is the supremacy of the person who he's speaking to. And specifically, he's addressing the time energy, kalena, by the force of his time energy. Everything, this exaltedness that one may have as a king, finished. Not only finished, but the way Sanatana Goswami is saying, it's disgusting. Proud and exhibiting arrogance over disgusting. And that's the word that Sanatana Goswami uses, or at least the translator of what he wrote, disgusting. What's attractive about a king that then becomes stool, or worms, or ashes? Not attractive. But the appearance of the people want that, nonetheless. So attracted to illusion, attracted to disgusting, thinking it's nice. And striving and striving and striving and striving to get it. And how many get it out of those that are striving to get it? I mean, put this to the side for a moment, hit the pause button, and the queen died, and now there's a king replacing the queen, and all this pageantry, and he should read Srimad Bhagavatam. And when we come across these things, we don't insult people who are doing the pageantry. When there's some, whatever it is, opulence, becoming a king, or becoming whatever it is that other people hold to be of high estimation, some kind of celebrity of some kind. In the intellectual realm, or in the sports realm, or in the whatever music realm, or whatever it is, realm that people have some attraction for, and then there's somebody superlative in that realm, and lots of attention goes to that person. Or the exhibition of some opulence. But what's that opulence? First of all, it's something from Krishna. So the one who gives the opulence should be honored, but that's not what goes on. So, and whatever is that opulence, the time energy takes it away. So Mukunda is giving, it's a nice lesson. And he is the one that's benefiting from the lesson. Of course, we're benefiting from his speaking it. It's transcendental. It's humility. It's glorification of the Supreme Person. And in the end, where does it leave him? He's in the same place as any pure devotee. He simply wants to be in the association and in the service of the personality of Godhead. Krishna appeared. Krishna has a plan for Muchukunda. It's a nice detail. It's coming up in the chapter, so I'll mention it now. I think it's pretty amazing. Krishna delivers Shishupal and Dantavakra and Kamsa, and by killing wicked demons, they achieve liberation. And Muchukunda doesn't achieve liberation. Krishna gives some explanation. At the end of this chapter, Krishna's explanation is, you killed many animals in the course of your hunting in the forest, and you have to, although it's not dharma, you have to take responsibility. So you go to the forest, You undergo austerities to counteract, though he's a devotee. What does he need to counteract? He's seen Krishna face to face. What does he need to counteract? Well, Krishna speaks to counteract, and then in your next life you take birth, you become a Brahmin, then you come to me. I mean, it doesn't. I didn't run across it in any of the commentaries, but it just makes sense. Krishna had a plan. He had some other service for him, and so he was giving him an opportunity for some other service. Because everything happens according to his plan. So his plan is such a person as Muchukunda, give him some service. And let him do something nice. And be happy doing something nice for Krishna. The past. I like the Muchukunda story. Personally, I like it a lot. For many different angles. The primary one I already mentioned. Krishna shining a spotlight on Muchukunda, who would otherwise just be obscure as a blur in the so many names that we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam. He'd be just one of those names. But here, there's a whole chapter dedicated to him. And he's given an opportunity to say something very wonderful. Glorification of Krishna, expressions of humility, berating himself for his foolishness of thinking that there's happiness in the temporary. And he was good at it. What a fool. Lots of clarity about Krishna and that Krishna here, Krishna's time, energy, etc. How the flow of things happen. Very clear. So he's a certain kind of hero. Bhagavatam hero. Not really, really, really prominent. There's others far more prominent, even ones that are a little more obscure. Sandipani Muni, anyway, so many. Sudama Brahman, they're very dear to Krishna also. But Muchukunda is very dear to Krishna. Look what he did. We would also like some service. And, is service in any way, what to speak of some direct service. In this case, the direct service for Muchukunda was zapping Kalyavana. It wasn't even like Krishna wants me to zap Kalyavana, so I'll go and do it. It's just circumstantial. Some direct service for Krishna. Fantastic. So it helps to have such a desire. Then Krishna, and it also helps to become a pure devotee. And then Krishna reciprocates with the desires of his pure devotees. Even it's a little, the circumstance is a little odd. He desired the benediction that he wouldn't be woken up. And if anybody woke him up, they would instantly burn and become a pile of ashes. That's not, why does a pure devotee desire something like that? Because it was part of Krishna's plan. Quite okay. Because it was Krishna's plan to give him that opportunity to finish, this wicked person. And the whole thing. And how the wicked person become a wicked person, it's a whole other part of Krishna's plan. He enjoys. He enjoys combat and he enjoys honoring his devotee. So some things happen because he enjoys combat. He just orchestrates things so that there's combat. And just one pastime I'll be speaking about to the Chinese devotees. When the chapter where Duryodhana is humiliated, Krishna is honored, Shishupal gets freaked out. Those, the Pandavas want to finish him. Krishna stops them, just lifts his hand, no, don't. And then the 100th time, finished. Then some contemplation of why he did what he did, the way he did, and when he did, and so forth and so on. And then the Rajasuya Yagya carried on. It was completed. And there's rituals and rituals and rituals and rituals. After that mess of Shishupal being beheaded, the Yagya went on. The Rajasuya Yagya went on. And the Rajasuya Yagya was attended by Duryodhana. Duryodhana paid tribute to Yudhisthira because otherwise the Yagya couldn't have proceeded. He paid tribute because he understood Yudhisthira is a good person. Duryodhana and others, Shalva and others. At the end, Krishna decided that he would stay for some time. And Duryodhana was in the vicinity. This is not far from his kingdom. Indraprastha was not far from Hastinapur. So he, seeing the glorification of Yudhisthira and seeing the opulence of Yudhisthira, etc., he decided to go show his opulence. He brought his sword, he brought his crown, he brought his entourage. I'm opulent too. However, when he was in Indraprastha again and saw the opulence of Indraprastha, Indraprastha was built by Vishwakarma, and the many of the details, particularly the assembly hall details, Mayadanava is like fantastic. Otherworldly fantastic. And so, as you know, he thought land was water and water was land, and he fell in the water. He was lifting his cloth as he was passing over land, thinking it was water or nearby, and fell in the water. And naturally, Bhima laughed. And when Bhima laughed, others laughed. And all of Krishna's queens were there, and they laughed. And Yudhisthira wanted them to stop. Krishna indicated, he didn't say, he wanted them to laugh. He wanted Duryodhana to be feeling insulted what he would do, and sure enough, he did what he did. Because Krishna wanted it. But so, how things happen in Krishna's pastimes, it's just Krishna wants, and then his energies do what Krishna wants. He's just enjoying. Though it's mysterious how he goes about enjoying sometimes. Okay, so Krishna enjoys fighting, but he enjoys even more having Muchukunda zap Kalyavana. And then this exchange between Muchukunda and Krishna, it's pastime. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Krishna, Muchukunda, you mentioned not receiving liberation. but
Muchakunda's mentioned what?
not receiving liberation. Liberation?
He doesn't get liberation.
Yes. And Krishna sent him for
To
another
Himalayas.
service, another birth. The fact that, his aspiration was to serve Krishna and to be with Krishna, obviously, but to be with Krishna. And he's sent again to the material world, in separation in one sense. This principle of sacrifice, of being in separation. And I remember this thing that you wrote me one time as a bhakta, that Srila Prabhupada trained you like that, trained you in taking a headache for Krishna. Remember those words. And you wanted to train us like that. Can you speak a little bit about that mood of sacrifice, that mood of sacrifice, that
feeling
Prabhupada,
satisfied in separation?
this sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Yes.
You want to hear about sacrifice?
Well, specifically, what you got from Srila Prabhupada in terms of training you like that you said, you mentioned.
Well, first of all, Prabhupada was so powerful. I mean, he didn't swagger around like somebody that's powerful, but he was very powerful. And iron filings are attracted to a magnet, and a person who has the empowerment like Prabhupada had attracted many, many, many people. And he was expert in engaging those that were attracted to him. But the Hare Krishna movement would not have grown without persons who were not in his physical presence, but doing his bidding or carrying out his mission nonstop. So it's my understanding, just to elaborate on this, which what you're asking is, it's part of his plan was Krishna's plan, and Krishna's plan comes with potencies. So that we, many of us, served without so much in-person association. The sacrifice was love. It wasn't like sacrifice that hurts. And finding creative ways to fulfill that which we knew Prabhupada wanted. And then different persons having different inclinations to serve in different ways, without listing the many, the categories, and then finding ways. And receiving his encouragement, chastisement and admonition, warning us about so many things. So he was a powerful person. And so making sacrifice for such a powerful person taps you into the power of that person. We felt empowered. And we were. By making, as you using the phrase that you're using, you want to hear more about, is making the sacrifice. Without control of the mind and senses, one cannot progress even materially. One will degrade even materially. So controlling the mind and senses is a form of tapasya, or sacrifice. The sacrifice in service is the greatest sacrifice. And sacrifice in service to one who is so powerful, one feels empowered just by that connection. Then all that's needed is turn left or turn right, or keep going straight. For persons that Prabhupada knew his audience, and he knew it, the assignment given to him by Bhaktisiddhanta, speak in the English parts of the world, and he was very clear. The persons who I'm speaking to, they're animals. Unregulated, disturbed, distracted, and that was his audience. And his business was to make them into first-class Brahmins. What a challenge. So to go from that down to being empowered, sacrifice is needed. We let go of that and we take this. Something else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. There's a lot of echo coming when you're speaking. The voice is not clear.
Is it possible for you to speak slowly?
Yes, I'll try my best.
You generally, you're 10 miles an hour faster than my ears.
So when you were speaking, the voice was not clear. So when you were answering about controlling mind and senses, I didn't hear after that even in the material world, we have to control the mind and senses.
Yeah. To be successful materialist, you have to focus. You have to focus your mind and your sense activities. If one doesn't do that, one will not be successful materially.
Thank you.
Or spiritually.
Or spiritually, yes. They have to be focused, right?
Focused,
yeah.
Mind. And then from the mind focused, it directs the senses. Then intelligence is above the mind, etc.
It's more like regulated. There could be a series of questions which can come, but all the hopes of the questions has gone.
All the what?
All the hopes for the questions. For the questions.
Christians?
For the questions has gone because you told that it's Krishna's plan. So whatever happening is Krishna's plan. So I have a lot of questions about Muchukunda, why Muchukunda. Okay, what was Muchukunda pure before he went to sleep?
Or when he went to sleep?
Yeah, or he became pure, because he was belittling himself or berating himself or is humiliating himself in front of Krishna. It happened when he saw Krishna, or it was before he slept?
What do you think?
I think when he saw Krishna, it's confusing because you told that he was a pure devotee. So before he slept, he was pure?
Absolutely. Now, is it possible, I'm going to speak slowly because you don't. Is it possible that one can be a pure devotee and not yet see Krishna?
I'm sorry, it is possible one can be a pure devotee?
I'll say it again, slowly. Is it possible for one to be a pure devotee yet not yet see Krishna? Is it possible? Possible. Okay. Then what happens when such a person who is a pure devotee who has not yet seen Krishna then sees Krishna? What happens? Do they become like a super pure devotee, or what happens?
They feel humiliated for sure.
They what?
They feel humiliated, they feel low grade, and they feel...
The quality of humility is amplified, and their rasa is amplified. But the capacity for rasa to be amplified is already in place because they're a pure devotee.
Because we have seen in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj.
Exactly. Exactly.
Then the second question is that Sage Narada was very pure compared to Muchukunda, which I feel, I'm speculating, I could be wrong, you can correct me. He got an opportunity to see Krishna just for a moment, and he left away. that you have to become more pure. And in the case of Muchukunda, Krishna came personally and he allowed him to offer all this list of prayers. And then okay, now you go and do austerities. Why is that?
Why? Variegatedness. Krishna is not a cookie cutter God.
Thank you. One last question. We were talking about the spontaneity, that how the things become spontaneous and attraction increases. Is it possibility that spontaneity comes from the innate nature? From the nature, from your physical and emotional nature? You've been born by the nature and you just flow with that nature? And
the answer to that is no. It comes from the spiritual strata, not from your psychophysical nature, which are... The psychophysical nature can be spiritualized, but spontaneity doesn't arise from your psychophysical nature. It arises from the spiritual strata.
About the materialistic people who want to be...
Material what?
The materialistic businessman, the big people, the big...
Speak slow, please.
The people who work in the corporate world, the materialistic workers, they have their fixed intelligence.
They have what?
Their fixed intelligence.
They have intelligence, for sure.
They have their determination.
Yes.
And they are spontaneous.
Well, what does that mean? Their kind of spontaneity and the devotional spontaneity are not the same. Correct? They're getting inspiration from Super Soul. This is a way to get ahead or to, achieve your ambitions. Super Soul. And it's Super Soul prompting. So in that sense, spontaneous. But it's not the same, it's not transcendental spontaneous. Transcendental spontaneous is Super Soul sees you want to be always connected to Krishna, and there's regulations to help you get there. And once you're there, the regulations don't hold the same weight because the spontaneous platform is now yours. Krishna has lifted you and given you entry into that status. It's different. The source is the same, but the experience is different. The manifestation is different. The result is different.
Thank you for a clarification. Just one last follow-up. Can I put this question in a different way? Let the person start the devotional service.
Which person?
Yes, when the devotee...
The materialist or
a devotee.
The devotee.
A devotee start a devotional service. And he's doing his bhajana kriya.
He's what?
He's doing his bhajana kriya.
Bhajana kriya, okay.
He's not even in a stage of nishtha.
Okay.
Or let's say if he's in stage of nishtha, probably, still it is a bhakti who's inspiring or a super soul is inspiring.
Is it possible what?
Is still bhakti is inspiring to do his service, or is his super soul inspiring, or is his innate nature inspiring? I'm sorry, Maharaj.
I don't understand the question.
Let me put it this way. This mic is not... So when a new devotee who joined the temple, and
they're doing sadhana, they're doing bhajana kriya. That's very nice.
Kriya,
and they're not yet at the nishta stage.
Maybe at the nishta
stage. They may be at the nishta stage.
Let's say, and he's doing a spontaneous service. Is this coming from his...
When you say he's doing spontaneous service, what does that mean?
Let's say he's fixed in cleaning the temple floor or washing the pots.
Does that mean spontaneous service, that he's cleaning the floor or washing the pots?
But he is very fixed in his service. That I want to do the service.
Let's go to Jiva Goswami's explanation in Bhakti Sandarbha. And one may be inclined to service. It's not spontaneous. And that inclination for service is connected to the pot room or the floor. And they like. It's not the same. I'm sorry. It's not the same as what the meaning of the bhava stage or the spontaneous stage of bhakti is. It's mixed. It's not in this in the stage where they have no requirement in the transcendental stage. There's no requirement for following the vidhis of bhakti. They may not, and the only reason they would not is it impedes their ecstatic loving service to Krishna, and otherwise they will, and they will because it's setting an example, but there's not a requirement, a transcendental requirement to become purified, because they're already purified. But they do because they know it's setting an example. It's like Krishna saying to Arjuna, when you become perfect, you'll still continue to do exemplary acts because it sets example for others. So let's say Sanatana Goswami or Raghunath Das Goswami or Haridas Thakur. Raghunath Das Goswami, his vidhis were like lines in stone. They don't move. He was beyond the need, but he did. Why? Setting an example. And etc. That's different than the example that you're pointing to. It's an inclination to serve, which, according to Bhakti Sandarbha, that's just a preliminary stage. And that tendency to serve gets somehow, by mercy of a devotee, connected to Krishna's service. So they like. They like. I'm sure there's people here in the temple community, their favorite activity, in many places at least, their favorite activity is coming to the temple on Sunday and washing pots. They love it. I know, I've met such people, very accomplished, and their greatest happiness each week is going to the pot room and washing pots. I was just in a program at Northeastern in Boston. There were like 10 guys that during the whole program, they were just washing the pots for the cooking. And they were happy. They could have been doing something else. They could have been with us in the class. They could have been wherever. They were happy. It's just different. They're not beyond the regulative stage of sadhana bhakti. They like service, which is fine. It's wonderful. The program couldn't go on without it. I'm going to ask you to give the microphone to someone else. Anyone else? And she speaks slowly. I can understand her easily, most of the time.
I have a couple questions, Guru Maharaj. One is, even though Muchukunda was yearning for the fulfillment of the prophecy of Garga Muni,
Yeah.
at that pregnant moment when Krishna came before him.
When Krishna did what?
Came before him.
Came before him, yeah, okay.
He did not recognize the Lord.
He didn't recognize who he was.
Is that related to the fact that even though he had done dharmic activities, he had hurt other living entities? Or what is the reason?
That's a possibility, but not necessarily. There could be other explanations. He hadn't heard a description of Krishna's personality, so when he saw Krishna's form and characteristics, so he didn't connect the two. Another could have been part of Krishna's plan to Krishna to reveal to him. There's multiple options. There's more. Without hearing from our acharyas, and even our acharyas someone say this and someone may say that. So it's a possibility. Next.
Guru Maharaj, what does the name Muchukunda mean?
I have to look it up. I don't know offhand. You have? Question, the meaning of his name, Muchukunda. Sanskrit name. What's the meaning of his Sanskrit name, Muchukunda? I'll ask. I'll let you know. Anyone else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada.
Swami Maharaj ki